Next up, we have the ARIN financial report from ARIN's treasurer, Bill Sandiford.
Hello, everyone. It is the forward button. There we go. So just a brief update. On the Finance Committee and our activities, we continue to adjust our investments consistent with the investment policy statement and made some minor changes to investments in some small and large cap funds. As of the end of March, the investment balance was just shy of $31.7 million. We've been working with the fee schedule, with the implementation of the new fee schedule coming up in a couple of months. We've been working away at the 2016-2017 budget and also dealing with the 2015 financial results. As John said earlier, those were approved last night, and preparation of the IRS 990 form preparation. In terms of the actual results versus our budget, this chart shows some of the highlights from the 2015 financials, the actual results versus what was budgeted in those amounts. There's a few particular columns that have some variances, which I'll speak to on the next slides. The variances mainly were a result of some budgeting for additional staff at the beginning of the year, as well as office space. For those of you that may not know it, ARIN is currently undertaking to change its office location over the course of the next year, and there were some implications to the actual results as a result of that. The communications department came under budget due to a slower ramp-up of staff at the beginning of the year, and it took most of the year to complete the project that affected that number. And we had a little bit of an increase in legal expense, mainly driven by what's happening over at ICANN with the IANA governance changes, etc., as well as some of the lease negotiations resulting around the new office space facility. As at the end of the year, this slide explains our current reserves, particularly with respect to the Legal Defense Reserve Fund, the Operating Reserve, and the Long-Term Reserve Funds. You can see here this slide shows how our reserves have been growing over time, and you can see that from 2014 to 2015 there was a small growth, but not as much as we'd seen in some other years. In terms of going forward, this slide shows us where we're at in terms of the going forward budget year as compared to last year's actuals. So you can see that we're going to be doing some catch up in the salaries and employment area. There's some variances there. Again, I have another slide explaining those in a minute. I'll just give you a second to take a look at these couple slides so you can see the numbers that are involved. You can see the additional rent and occupancy variance there. That's the result of a buyout that's currently happening with our current lease, trying to pursue subletting the current space to fulfill the lease. But for a short period of time, we will be responsible for multiple spaces. The increases of the staffing and benefits line is the result of the staff additions that are expected over the coming year, and it also includes a potential increase in the salary of the man to my left. Also, the NRO expenses are a little higher this year due to the change in the way that the expenses of the NRO chair was allocated, and that's now shared amongst all the RIRs. With that, I'll open the floor to questions.
Any questions on the financial report? Rear microphone, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that over many years, ARIN has taken a lot of vocal criticism for its travel budget line item. And to my hazy memory, it appears that in real dollars, this number is considerably down over the last couple of years. And I just want to applaud John and the board for listening to the criticisms and cutting down on some of the excessive travel that ARIN previously may have done.
Yeah, as you can see, I've backed it up to the actual results We were 453,000 below the budgeted number for 2015. So,
In terms of actual travel practices, I'll note the Board of Trustees has worked hard to make sure that it has good coverage for external meetings, but prudently reviews the travel, and that's meant that we have good coverage, but we're not over-attending. Likewise, we've managed to focus the AC. We have excellent coverage on the AC on remote events, but we don't have anything excessive there either. So we managed to spend less. We think we're actually getting more value for the travel out of it. I do appreciate the praise.
Rear Center Mike?
Kevin Bloomberg, The
just-
Wire.
Just one other observation, and that is that both Paul and I review the planned board travel, and we're concerned about wear and tear on the board members. And so we've actually been controlling, to some extent, how much travel is allocated to each board member, and we're particularly concerned about John. So even though saving money is absolutely the right thing, saving people's sanity and lives seems to be even more important.
Excellent. Rear microphone?
Kevin Bloomberg, The Wire, ARIN AC. Question, is the revenue and the budget basically neutral to one another, and then any additional has been through investments and things like that? Or is...
Is the ask that question.
The revenue that you get through membership, through whatever other fees that you pay out or make each year, is that neutral to, or does that even out against what your expenses are?
Got it. Okay. So if you look at 2015 slide results to budget, which is the one that's up, this year we actually ended up being significantly lower than planned on salaries and budget, ended up with total expenses 1.9 million under budget. And the challenge is that our revenues are much closer to budget. So we actually, even though this year we actually intended to be drawing down reserves even more, you actually saw a slight increase that we had in 2015 to reserves. We do plan generally to be revenue expense neutral. The problem that we have year over year is that the investment expense is estimated, and we often have come in higher. So even though we plan revenues and expenses to match, we've been accumulating to the reserves. This year, we intended to draw down those reserves by about $2 million, and we failed. So it's not a bad problem to have, but we have been consistently under expenses compared to revenue.
As long as the budget and your revenue, I realize the budget is not perfect,
Right.
but it's a budget, is the same. I'm very happy with how you're doing it. You're not bringing in more money.
No.
So that's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. The second question is, I noticed that the Legal Defense Fund was a pittance in the grand scheme of things. What could be allocated, or is the long-term reserve fund available for a large legal defense scenario?
So all of ARIN's reserves are available. Do you want to? I mean, I'll do it. All of ARIN's reserves are available for legal defense if necessary. The Legal Defense Fund is readily available. It's actually allocated for that purpose, can be drawn down very quickly, and it's something that we don't count as a strategic reserve of the organization. So it's a very small number, but it's kept in ready reserve. It doesn't produce the same returns as the others, so that if for some reason we had to enjoin on a matter very quickly with significant capabilities, we have that available for the purpose.
One other point to be made is that depending on the circumstances requiring legal assistance, we might actually wind up with insurance coverage, for example, in addition to whatever we have set aside here. One of the reasons for having the legal defense reserve in place is that that's an allocation, an expenditure that can be made without board action, because it's been set aside precisely for that reason.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding the financial report? Yes.
Hi, good morning. My name is Claire Craig. I'm from the University of the West Indies in Trinidad and Tobago. My question is around the line item research, internet research.
Yes.
I was concerned, the other one, there was one where it was actually allocated $250,000, right, 261 and only $67,000 was spent on research. What were you planning to do, and why was so little used in the actuals?
That's actually a wonderful question because we actually discussed that at length last night. One of the challenges ARIN has is that we have a number of folks coming to us for worthy internet endeavors, and we didn't really have a formal process for how to handle them. People come asking for financial support, grants, for things that this community could easily be interested in, but you can't say yes to all of them. We don't have a formal program. The board's tasked me with coming up with that program, and we did the first review of one last night, so that we'll have a formal way of telling folks if you need financial support for internet, for grants and research, for educational, scientific, educational projects that are worthy, then we'll have a formal program that will review and budget more completely and in more detail each year. We've had this line item, but I've only been the one fulfilling it for things that plainly the community has demanded. Now we're going to have a way of making sure we actually fulfill it on a more organized basis. So we should see more in the next month or two. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue.
This gives me an opportunity to ask this question. We in Trinidad and Tobago are not members of ARIN, but we belong to an organization which is a regional organization, the University of the West Indies, where there are territories within the Caribbean that are ARIN members, whereas Trinidad and Tobago is a member of LATNIC. Would we therefore then be able to, in your policies, we hope, this is more of a comment, that we would be able to apply for some of these research grants and support?
So let me take this one. It's Vint from Google and Chairman. The idea here is that parties who are not necessarily affiliated with ARIN might still come to us asking for support. And many organizations have already done that, but as John has said, we didn't have a regular process for figuring out whether we should provide support or not. There will be a process by which people like you or your colleagues, are you pointing at something for some reason? Oh, only to say that Bill had his hand up. Thank you, David. Anyway, there will be a process by which we will receive proposals that are looking for support. The Finance Committee will examine those, and then the board will have an opportunity to make a determination whether they will get support or not. So you might very well fall into a category that could get support.
Yeah, I was just going to make clear that this is not money for ARIN to do research internally. This is all money to support research efforts that are external. None of this is directed specifically to the ARIN region, so we're happy to hear research grant request proposals from anyone, anywhere. And as has been mentioned here, we're just trying to formalize that process so that it will be apples to apples comparison between possibly fundable projects in the past, because things have come in over the transom and each been considered individually. It's been very difficult for us to budget or know what the opportunity cost of supporting one project might be early in the year if something good comes along later in the year, or if we fail to support something early, anticipating more things, and then nothing else comes along. So we're trying to kind of align those and be able to compare them on their merits relative to each other.
And just to note, we presently do give contributions, grants to organizations such as CTU and Caribbean that span the entire Caribbean region. We don't necessarily distinguish that in terms of determining whether or not something's a worthwhile endeavor, if that helps. Thank you. Any other questions for our treasurer or on the ARIN financial report? Thank you, Bill.